Guys, this is Victory Chatter. My name's Choki. I got my co-host here, Big O. Oliver's in the building, finally stepping on the screen. We have a very special man today, very special skill set. One of the few men that has played in the Major League Soccer and the National Football League. He is a goalkeeper, or was a goalkeeper for FC Dallas, and he became a kicker in the NFL for the Jacksonville Jaguars and notably the Los Angeles Chargers. We got Josh Lambo in the building. Big Lambo. What's up, brother? What's good? What's good? What's good?
With that haircut.
Yeah. Clark Clint in the building.
Clark on more than one occasion.
It's good having you, man. I mean, it's crazy. We went to pick up, and I knew about you way back in the day, like, cause you're my age group. Mm-hmm. So I knew you were in the residency program, IMG, and I knew you went. I was obsessed with all that stuff because I just want to know how these guys get there, like what's going on over there, what are they doing over there. Like it was such a big deal to me. So I knew all the players, I knew whoever was in there, whoever was doing anything, and I knew I was really big on the goalkeepers because I just paid attention so much. And you were like one of the top guys in like our age group coming out of where you're from. I think you're from Wisconsin, but
yeah,
you grew up in Chicago, right?
Grew up in Chicago. It was brief. My family moved to Wisconsin. I was only there for a few months, and then I got the call to go to residency.
Yeah, so you spent most of your life in Florida because of residency and all that stuff, and it's wild. We all played, and we all played in the system, in the youth system, and you were on the national team. Oliver was on the national team for a little bit. I've gotten looked at the national team. I don't think I did as far as you guys did because I was like literally nobody knew me. But how was it like? Going from especially Wisconsin and Chicago, that area of the country, and then going down to Florida, Bradenton, which was it was like they were building robots out there, going to IMG. What was it like when you first, how'd you even get approached to go to IMG? Like, how did it even work?
So I didn't go the traditional route through the regional ID camps because the U15 year, which is the first year you have actual national team camp, I broke my rib a couple days before the regional team camp. So if I can't compete in the regional camp, I can't be the number one goalkeeper, which then gets you to the national team ID camp.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I played for a club called the Chicago Magic.
Oh yeah, big time.
Pretty big club, at least back in those days. I don't even know if it exists anymore. But our coach, Mike Makovich, who I don't think he'd be allowed to be a coach for youth folks anymore with all the just berating and insults that we got from him. But, he was a great coach, and I'm very thankful for him because he made a phone call. He was like, "Hey, national team scouts, whoever, you guys need to give this kid a look. He's 14. He's already 6 foot tall. He hasn't let up a goal in 6 months. Mm-hmm. You need to give this guy a look." And so I got invited to the U15 Nike Friendlies with my age group, the 1990 age group. And was with the national team every camp until my age group got invited to residency. And there were a couple of 88s hanging around after their U17 World Cup. And so they didn't have room for me initially in residency. And then one of the 89s, something happened. He had a family issue, left residency, went back to Texas, and they opened up a spot. And they gave me a call on a Thursday night. I was playing for my high school, Middleton High School in Wisconsin. And I was at our spirit week for homecoming that weekend or something. Mm-hmm. And I get a phone call from Tim Mulqueen, who was the U17 goalkeeper coach at the time. And he calls me and he says, "Josh, on behalf of Coach Hackworth and myself, National U.S. Soccer,
Hackworth,
we're thrilled to be able to finally invite you to the residency program." And this was everything I'd wanted. Since 7th grade, I had a goals list in my wallet. And the first thing on there was get invited to residency. And so I'm talking to Coach Mulqueen, and I say, "Hey, thank you so much. This is everything I've ever wanted. But can we hold off for a month? My high school team just made the playoffs, and mm-hmm. we want to go deep." Mm-hmm. And Mulqueen was like, "Hey, you know what, Josh? I respect that. That's a commendable thing. I appreciate that you want to start something or finish something that you started. But you can either play for your high school or you can play for your country."
Oh, jeez.
And I said, "See you next week."
I can't do both.
And I moved down there on Tuesday.
Damn, that's crazy. So he gave you an ultimatum,
ultimatum for sure.
Which is obviously what we want options, but we really want to make one decision, and sometimes people have to make that decision for you. So now you're You're there on Tuesday. What was it like when you stepped foot there? Like, cause when you're in an environment you've never been to before and you've always wanted to be there, what was it like getting there and you were like, oh shit, like I'm in this mug, like this is crazy.
I mean, there were a handful of guys I knew most, at least most of the '90s. We had several camps at IMG in Bradenton, so I'd known some of the older guys as well, even just cats that were from Chicago. But that Wednesday practice, it was like 40 times. It was like testing. Like kind of hardly broke a sweat. I'm like, this is the easiest thing in the world. Like, what was I afraid of? And then that Thursday, oh boy, did they run us. It was the hardest training session I've ever had. Like weeks and weeks go by, and it's just nonstop fitness. Like I was an athlete when I got there. I was not a goalkeeper. Like Mulqueen, when I was there, turned me into a goalkeeper.
You're the goalkeeper.
And I became a goalie because I couldn't run. Like I was the shorter, little chunkier kid in youth soccer growing up, and so they're like, yeah, just you take up half the goal already. Go stay back there.
Go back and goal.
And so the fitness for me was just so hard. And so that was the biggest adjustment for me, was training at that high of a level day after day after day after day at such an intensity that I'm like, is this ever going to get better?
So wait, they just had you guys just like conditioning the whole time?
It was, yeah. It was,
For how long? Like
I
days
mean,
after days,
even
or-
just the goalkeeper training for me was conditioning. Because Mulqueen's goalkeeper coach, his thought process was practice should be significantly harder than the game. So when you get to the game, it's almost like I've seen this 1,000 times before. It's easy, and you might need to make 2, 3, 4 saves in a row, but you're still able to make a 5th, 6th, 7th if you need to, because you made 20 saves in a row in practice. It was just the intensity of like, you're doing a goalkeeper drill where you're maybe making 4 saves, rep after rep after rep, and then you get a break, and your break is service to the other goalkeeper. I had never trained like that before. I was always the younger guy, because I was pretty athletic, so I was training with like maybe these 16s, 17s, 18s when I was 12, 13, 14. And so I kind of always got pushed to the side a little bit. I was exposed to that higher level, but like being the guy that's getting trained, like training is for me now at this point. I'm not just a bystander. It's like, no, we need to get you better. We need to get you ready for the games. And so that for me was just another level, and it took me a while to get my fitness up. I still don't think I ever passed a Cooper test.
Really?
I don't think I
That
ever
wasn't
did.
the expectation. Like you had to as a goalkeeper. There wasn't
I
like.
mean, we had to run. We didn't. I mean, I never passed, and I still played, so apparently it wasn't that
Was
big
it
of a
Cooper, not the beep test?
deal. We started off with the Cooper test, which was the 2 miles in 12 minutes, 6-minute break, another mile in
At
6
a
minutes.
young age, man.
And
You get used to it. Didn't everybody? I mean,
At a young age, like, but in high school, like,
that's
I mean,
what we
to be
did.
a young
My
kid,
high school coach was like the coach of varsity blues, except it's soccer. He used to yell at us, all to call us donkeys. That was your jersey number, donkey number 4. Run here, run there, and it was like so when he says that, did you guys have that in Texas or no?
no, I mean, when I was in Texas, like, when I started doing fitness, like, I started at like 15 when I really, because you got your whole life, and if you're a midfielder, striker, you're running already, so it's not like you need to do fitness, but it's different when you work on your fitness than to running in a game,
right,
because in the game your energy is already so high, so you're gonna run like that. But I feel like when you get to like a training lifestyle, like you start really training yourself, is different than being in a game because it makes the game that much easier. And he is right; those reps do matter. But we didn't do Coopers because realistically, that doesn't necessarily make you a fitter guy. It's not realistic. And I've seen a guy. I had a guy in college. His name was Matt. He's the fittest kid I ever met in my life, man. Like he was the fittest. When we came to Coopers, he was doing Coopers in like 10. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yes, he did 10:50, 10:40, 10:30. He was so much further ahead. I swear, he started a game one time. I'll never forget this. He started a game. He never starts. He started a game one time. Matthew Stallman, I'll never forget, because I used to train with him in the summers. I was like, I'm trying to get fit like Stallman. He wasn't even as fit as me in the game. He went to the game, did 2 sprints. He was done.
done.
I said, hold on. How can a guy who's doing Coopers in that long go on the field and pass out? And I said, okay, this is what there's a game fitness that's not built for track or running. Games football fitness is very sporadic. So you're stopping and going, stopping and going. You're running you run for like 2 minutes and then you walk or jog or whatever. It changes your heart rate and all that stuff. It's a whole science behind it. And nobody understood that back then. They just looked at it like, oh, well, if you can do a Cooper, you're fit. And it's like, no, it's different because the ball and all that stuff. So
right. Well, in the game too, like you have something to focus on. You're like, oh, I have to be there. Like we are going to let up a goal if I don't get there.
Yeah.
In the Cooper test, all you're thinking about is step after step after step after step, and it's like, oh man, I've only been doing this for 40 seconds. Like, oh no, this is going to be a problem.
Another lap.
So who was on that? I keep saying like, who's on that residency program when you were there? I know there were some ballers there back then.
Josie Altidore was there.
Wow.
Mikey Stevens was there. I'm trying to think. Brian Perk was a goalkeeper. I think a lot of people kind of blame my age group for us missing the World Cup a couple of times ago because we didn't really produce any significant talent. Breck Shea was there.
Alex Dixon.
Dixon, Greg Garza, a bunch of Texas fellas.
Yeah.
Jared Jeffrey played overseas in a DC United for a little while.
Yeah, I remember him.
Shannon Williams had a good MLS career.
I know Shannon. Yeah. Oh, Moby was that.
Caldwell.
Okay.
He was a 91. I mean, we had some good dudes, but I don't know if we ever had like a really big breakout star. I don't think we had anyone that like changed the game. It was like, if we're gonna win a game, it's gonna be because of that guy.
It's funny you say that. I have that conversation with him all the time because you guys are the same same class, and he's like, when I look at that World Cup pool and everything, your class got skipped. Now I don't know if it's because the players weren't good enough or whatnot, but they just got skipped, and it's something we just talk about all the time, dear. Like, what do you like? Because it's hard to say that the guys ahead of you were that much better because you guys still had guys that were superstars or studs.
Right.
So what do you think that cause of that?
I mean, 'cause I felt like we were like a good team. I felt like we worked together well, but when we needed that superstar moment, I just don't know if we had it. And as opposed to why, I mean, I don't know. I don't. We had a couple of forwards that were solid, but not Brazil solid, not Theo Walcott good. We had a couple of really good games against some really top clubs because obviously with the national team we're playing other national teams for the most part.
Yeah.
We always battled it out against Brazil. They had the two twins, Raphael and the guys that played at Man United.
Man United, yeah.
I mean, my first international was against Theo Walcott and Daniel Sturridge in England, and we never had somebody of that name. Breck was probably supposed to be that guy.
Yeah.
And I love Breck. I'm really close with his. I'm probably closer with his family than I am with him. I took yoga from his mom at Texas A&M. She's a professor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, both of Breck's parents are professors.
Oh, wow.
Which just kind of makes you scratch your head. And it's like, well, how do y'all produce Breck?
Yeah.
He's wildly intelligent, super creative. He's an amazing painter. He has an awesome wife that they met in Bradenton.
Oh, really?
Tennis player.
Oh, wow.
They met back then. I don't know exactly what their relationship history was, but they're married now and have kids. And
that's crazy.
I think with Breck, when they whoever moved him to like left back, it was probably Shellis Heineman.
West Shellis at FC Dallas, yeah.
Who I kind of blame for essentially ruining my career, but we can talk about that in a minute. Breck is just like, he needs to feel free, I think, and he needs to feel free to be able to make a mistake. And if you're at left back, you can't have that freedom.
No.
You just can't because there's so much riding on
it.
Yeah. And so I think if Breck would have stayed in the attack, he could have been that dude just because he's so big, so tall, so fast. But, yeah, we just never had anybody that was just an out-and-out performer.
Yeah, I talked to Oliver about this, and I'm in my mind, because I'm 92, and I look at like y'all's age group, and I was like, okay, these guys are like the killers, like, you know. And I remember Jared Jeffries.
Yeah,
I remember him because he was like one of those guys who nobody really knew who he was, but he was on the national team, and we were like, okay, this guy's supposedly nice, supposedly good. Everybody knew Dixon. Everybody knew Breck Shea. Everyone knew you. Everyone knew Amobi. Like, all these guys were very well known, you know, and like obviously Josie and stuff like that. But I think that like maybe the talent was good in certain places, but the mentality wasn't good because there's this idea that like once you're in residency and I'll ask you this: did a lot of people move in and out of residency, or was it kind of like? Because I felt like it was a core. Because I never saw Breck, I never saw Alex Dixon. You never see because they play. Even Breck played at the same club I was at. Never saw him come back and play club soccer again. Dixon, they'd come back and play with Houston, the Dynamo, because the Dynamo Academy started, and they'd come back like towards the back end of high school because now they're getting ready to go to college, you know. And Breck didn't go to college, but Dixon did. He went to UNC. So did you feel like those guys, like, you know, y'all weren't moving parts in residency as much at that time? You weren't really like bringing guys in and out, because I think that helps the experience a lot. Because you see the pool with Donovan and those guys, it's a huge group of guys. You know, it's like 50 dudes who came in and out. Even Wingert, like he got in that group with those guys, but he didn't stay. But he still got to feel it and dipping out. And I'm sure it pushes you in your MLS career or your European career. But if you're keeping this like residency and all these, because residency wasn't around when Donovan and them, and like the IMG thing wasn't really. I think you guys like the first class or like second class or something like that. Like there was probably a few people for you. There was too much exclusivity to the national team that it stopped people maybe motivation wise, but also it stopped people as far as like not experiencing a higher level, like the highest level. And my age group, there was more guys who got to see it, but the ego starts to kick in because it's like, why am I not there more? And I think that goes into the future. And it's like, if you're not good enough, you shouldn't be there. But it wasn't that culture.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of this. The starters that played in the World Cup were pretty much the starters from day one.
That's what I'm saying.
Minus me. They brought in Zach McMath, who's obviously
McMath,
an amazing MLS career.
Yeah.
I just was watching him a bunch in the playoffs. He unseated me during qualifiers. Man, that was hard. I was the number one for a year and a half. And not to take anything away from Zach, he's a wonderful goalkeeper. He was tall, long, Florida.
No, he was great. It was great.
Yeah, he played our first. We had 4 games in qualifiers. He started the first 2. I think we scored a handful of goals. We had 2 shutouts, and then they put me in to play against Jamaica in Jamaica. If we get 3 points, we clinch qualifiers. And the 4th game doesn't really matter. We're up 2-0 until about the 77th minute, and then we let up 3 goals in 13 minutes.
Oh,
I think it was a penalty, a breakaway, and a header off a corner. And arguably, and even the coaches told me, like, look, Josh, you realistically couldn't do anything about any of those goals. But the thing is, you were in goal for all 3 of them. And we can't really look past that. And so they put McMath back in for the last game, pitched another shutout. And then he was the number 1 all summer going into the World Cup, which ours was in South Korea in 2007.
You were still on the squad, right?
Yeah.
That was U15 or 17?
That was U17s.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you go in as U15, you train for 2 years because there wasn't the academy system. So the residency system was let's get all the best players in the country
So they
playing
kept y'all
against.
there. They kept y'all there for 2 years, no matter what.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we had cuts every semester, but seldom did anybody actually get released. Zarek Valentine got released.
Yeah, Zarek. He's had a great career.
Yeah, great. I've reconnected with him recently. He's such a cool
Akron.
cat.
Went to Akron, yeah.
A bunch of cats went to Akron.
That was a
Kofi
good time.
Sarkodie and all those
Sarkodie,
cats.
Darlington, all those guys.
Darlington Nagby.
Darlington wasn't even on the national team.
Nope.
Never got looked at once during that time, like youth time. And it's like, how do you miss these dudes? Like, you have people all over the place. Like, you're missing guys who are like, and you start to see even in the NBA too. Like, see that's the one thing I like about NBA, NFL, and like other sports. They don't miss because you're looking for anybody who can give you something.
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing that with the national. They did that back then. They were just looking for the guys that they wanted, not necessarily who was the best actual players, because there's so many guys.
Yeah.
So many guys, dog. I mean, there were so many dudes that could have been in those spots with the Jerry Jeffries. Like, I didn't think those guys were going to pan out. I didn't think, I remember we were talking to, who were we talking to? Zavaleta, Eric. And he had Stephon Jerome. I don't know if you remember him. But like Stephon Jerome was in residency with Eric. And it's like, that guy didn't pan out. And it's like, yo, where are y'all getting these kids from, man? Like, I know they were good players in club, but over time, players have to develop. And if they're not developing, they have to go to bring in the guys that are developed. And it builds over time. You know, you keep your core if they're doing their thing, you know what I'm saying? But you need to like bring in fresh, and that's the problem. The pool shrunk so much. They'd get guys into like the regional team, like ODP, and then they'd just be like, all right, bye, go home. And it's like, what is this? Like, what are y'all doing?
And one of the best bits of advice that I ever heard that carried me throughout my professional soccer and football career. It was maybe U13 Illinois State Camp. And this was when Jonathan Spector was at United and Chicago guy. I used to I remember my family, me and my brothers, we used to go to, he went to called St. Viator High School. We used to go watch him play high school. He was just so good. Like
Spector was nice like that.
That dude. And he came back for, I guess he was on summer holiday, and he came to speak to Illinois State ODP. And he said, the minute they sign you is the minute they look to replace you. Yep. And going back to what you were saying, potentially the Hackworth training staff, I'm not saying yes or no, but potentially didn't have that mentality.
Yeah.
Of, okay, you're here, stay, like you earned it to get here, now earn it to stay here. And maybe there was no other quality at that time. I have no idea. You know, some people need to, you know, some people took great advantage of an opportunity. You know, Michael Bradley grew up playing with my brother in Chicago for the Sockers and was a solid player, but like very truthfully, everybody looking back then was like, oh, he's Bob's kid. So he's getting a little bit more preferential treatment. You know, everyone's doing fitness or doing core. Michael was the one like picking up the cones around the field. And so I think when he went to residency, a lot of people were like, yo, come on. Like nepotism at its finest.
Yeah.
But fair credit where it's due. Like he worked his butt off in residency. He got himself to Europe. He became a heck of a player. Like became one heck of a player.
I think somebody else takes his spot. They could have done double, because it's not necessarily the fact that you were good. It's the fact that you were allowed to like not make make mistakes. And just like you said, like those 3 goals went in. If Michael Bradley had that same situation happen to him, he wouldn't have got taken out like you did.
Right.
Because he has that family backing. And I always say that. I said, when you have a pillow to lean to fall back on, it's different than falling back on the ground. You know what I'm saying? And when you fall back on the ground, you get hurt. When you fall back on a pillow, there's still room to progress because you're not getting the whole thing yanked away from you. Right. And I think that's where it hurt a lot, is like you see guys like, you know, Bradley. I don't think he's a terrible player by any means, but I know if a kid had the same exact push that Michael Bradley had, we could have had a more talented player in that position. But no one ever wants to talk about it because, oh, he had a great career. Well, he had a great career based off of all the push he got. I mean, his dad was a national team coach, and he started. When in the history of any sport have you ever seen a kid, dad be the head coach of a team and the kid be the starter of the team? This never happened before. You can look at the NBA, NFL, any league.
I guess you're doing that in Colorado with football right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing it now because they're starting to see the system and stuff. And that might be the first time it's happened in a long time where your son's a star quarterback and your dad's a star football coach. That hasn't happened in a long, like even Nick's, look at all the college football coaches we've had in history that have been successful. Their kid hasn't been the best player and the most, but the kid's actually nice. Like, you know, Shador's actually good, but what are the chances in soccer where he plays a position where you don't need to be spectacular as well? He's more of a defensive mid. They try to play him as a 10, and it was just crazy to me. But they played him as a 10, and it's like he doesn't have to score goals that crazy. He doesn't have to do anything. He just has to run. And I know Michael Bradley, I've heard too many guys in the league tell me, Bradley works hard. Da, da, da. I'm sure he's like an obsessive worker. But you have to obsessively work to a certain extent. When it's different when you have the talent, it's different than when if you lack talent.
Right.
I know people who work hard because they know they lack talent, and that's the only thing getting them by. And then there's people that work hard that have talent, they turn out like Kobe. You know what I'm saying? The people that don't have talent and they work hard, they turn out like Michael Bradley. But they're not the same. People think the work ethic's the same. It's like, no. One of them has to work hard or he's going to be very deficient. One of them works hard because he's trying to take this to a stratospheric type level. You know what I'm saying? And I don't like that about the national team. They made it an exclusive club, and it hurt them in the long run because our age group, like my 90, 91, 92, nowhere to be seen on the national team.
And, you know, I guess it would have been that 89, 90, 91 age group that missed out on the Olympics. I don't know if have we qualified for the Olympics in the last several occasions?
No, we're not even going to be. We're not in this one.
This next one we're in it, I think, finally.
Yeah, I think we're in this one coming up.
Oh, okay.
But then I always tell him, I go, but then were the players, I said maybe they just weren't as good as we thought overall, but it is a chance. I just feel that as far as for the full national team, we already put our eggs in our baskets in your Clint Dempsey's, your Donovans in that age range where they were, because in America we market everything that way, especially for soccer. So once we get those guys in that bubble, we're not getting rid of them because we've already marketed them as like we're selling Landon Donovan posters and Landon Donovan pictures.
They were never selling Clint though. They were never selling Clint.
No, no, but we still knew who he was because he was playing in England. So even then, it's like, but even then, we've already invested in those guys. Getting new players in is a whole new gamble of marketing that they're like, we're gonna ride these guys until they retire.
But you don't have to get rid of those guys. You have to add on to the guys that aren't them.
Yeah.
So like if you're selling Landon, you're selling Clint, you're selling Michael Bradley, cool, keep them there. But you have to get guys who are in the spots that, let's say like a Jonathan Spector. And Jonathan had a great, like when he came on the national team, I was like, wow, we got a good quality Premier League, like, left back. And I liked seeing him on the field because he was a good player. But he even got replaced at some point. Sharundalo, who was on the national team forever, he even got replaced. And it's like we're replacing positions that we don't really need replacements. We need guys to be sturdy in those roles because those are like two positions that you need experience and you need pace and you need a little bit of depth. But we didn't replace the midfield. We didn't replace the wings. We didn't replace like the strikers. Even have somebody backing.
But those are the guys we
But
market.
even have guys backing those guys up and learning, it would have helped. But that's a whole another thing. Let's go into the you're in residency now. You stayed there. How long were you there in totality?
I was there about 2.5 years.
Okay, so you're there 2.5 years?
Yeah.
So you spent 2.5 years there, and now what's the goal? You're there for the whole time. So what's the goal after residency?
The goal for me was to get a look at and play in England, play for a Premier League team. I was going through. My grandfather was born when he was born in 1926. It was Macedonia, but it's now Greece. So I was eligible for a European passport. So my father got, because you can go back one generation, right? So my dad got his passport through his father. And then when my dad was a dual citizen with Greece and the United States, I was able to get dual citizenship through my dad. On my 16th birthday, I was in residency. It was, I don't know if we had a break or if I was just allowed to go, but I had a second trial with Everton. Earlier that summer, they did an American tour. So Tim Mulqueen, again, the goalkeeper coach, was Tim Howard's goalkeeper coach growing up in Jersey.
Crazy.
And so was his coach with the Metro Stars before Tim went over to England. And so I had that connection, and then Tim introduced me to Tim Mulqueen introduced me to Tim Howard's agent. And then, Timmy was on loan at Everton. I think maybe they had just bought him. American goalkeeper is doing great for us. Yep. Oh, the same agent, the same goalkeeper coach can pump out another replica version of Tim Howard. Yeah. Yes, please. Let's bring him in. So I got to work with them in the summer. I mean, Mikel Arteta was there. Leon Osman was one of the nicest players on the ball I've ever seen. He could play out of a phone booth. A lot of really, really good, talented guys. And, I did well enough to get invited back that winter. And on my 16th birthday, I was as tall as I am now. They offered me a contract. I didn't have my European paperwork yet. They knew I was working on it. Mm-hmm. So I finished out my time in residency, went back for another trial. So I'm 6 foot tall at 15 on my 16th birthday. Then I go back at age 17. I'm still only 6 foot. And they're like, wait a minute. Something is amiss here. You should be taller. Why are you not taller? During my medical, they did an X-ray or a bone scan of the growth plate in my wrist, and they're like, because you can tell if you're going to continue to grow if there's another growth spurt or something on there, and they're like, yeah, that sucker's fried. You're not going to grow anymore. Enjoy the rest of your time here, but we're not going to offer you anything.
Whoa! What, 6'2" to 6'5"?
I mean, how tall? Fair. 6 foot for a goalkeeper is short, especially in the Premier League. You have guys like at that time. I mean, Drogba could probably out jump me reaching up to go for a cross. So going with the big Wasserman Media Group for soccer, I was a little fish in a big pond. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like if I would have gone another direction, I feel like that agent only sent me where he had connections. He didn't actually he's okay, Josh, great at breakaways, great at shot stopper, maybe a little weak with crossing. Maybe he's more of a Bundesliga goalkeeper, or maybe he's like, let's send him to Scandinavia. It's get some reps. It was it didn't work out where I sent you, so you should probably just sign with the MLS.
Damn.
And I had considered, so Everton didn't work out. I had considered going to college because my I'm the youngest of three boys. Oldest brother didn't really play competitive soccer. The middle brother played at University of Wisconsin.
Oh, great.
And he was 4 years older than me, and so I'd never been able to play with him, even if we would have gone to the same. Like, we missed each other in high school. His freshman year of college was my freshman year in high school, so we never got to play with each other. And so I'm like, man, I graduated high school early from residency.
Oh, so you got out early. Okay.
I had the opportunity to go and play one season of college football, soccer with my brother. And so I'm like setting up this official visit with the University of Wisconsin. That's the only school I was even remotely interested in, just because I wanted to be on the same team with my brother. And then they're like, all right, Josh, we're setting up your official visit, but for us to pay for it, you need to prove that you've at least taken a practice SAT or ACT. And I had not. And I'm like, I don't want to waste a Saturday. And I already had a contract on the table from MLS. I was like, yo, Zach, we'll kick it when we get, like, for Christmas, but I'm not wasting a Saturday, so I'm going to sign with the MLS.
Wow. And that was Generation Adidas, right?
That was the GA deal, yeah.
And that was good money for.
Yeah, I mean, I was
kid.
making, I'm sure you can Google it. It's not a flex or anything. I made much more money playing football. That was like $90,000 at age 17.
Yeah, man, that's
They offered me, and I don't mean to necessarily out Jared, but Jared Jeffries and I had a meeting with an agent, and the MLS offered us a deal when we were both 15 to get a GA deal, finish out our time in residency, and then get selected. Like Quaves Kirk did that, who's a good homie. He's a Chicago guy, played at the Galaxy for a while. And it was like $40,000. And we're just like, I mean, we're in residency. We're getting paid $2 a day stipend. Like we don't what's $40,000 going to do? And then everything for me in Europe fell through. I signed with the MLS. I signed a deal in January because with GA you sign with the league, and then you just kind of see whoever drafts you.
Yep.
And I was told and convinced that the Fire were going to draft me. So I'm like, holy smokes, I'm going to get drafted by the Fire. I'm going to be the starting goalkeeper for my hometown club.
Yeah.
Like, I get to go home. I've been away as a teenager. I get to go have my friends again. And they had the 7th pick overall and I think the 12th pick overall. This was the 2008 MLS Super Draft. And so I'm there with my parents, my brother Zach, who was a soccer player. My oldest brother couldn't make it.
You went to the draft.
Went to the draft. It was in Baltimore.
That's great.
Because I mean, I was. You have to be picked in the first 2 rounds to be a GA.
Yeah, for sure.
That's part of the requirement. It's, I think, 4 teams have to commit to drafting you within the first 2 rounds, and then whoever gets you gets you. So the 7th pick comes up, and I'm like kind of like straightening my tie a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get to go up there. I'm gonna get picked by the Fire. And Pat Nyarko was still available.
Patrick Nyarko. Yeah.
So he was meant to be a top 5 pick. Breck went 2nd overall to FC Dallas.
FC Dallas.
Chance Myers went to
Yeah,
Kansas City.
Chance Myers. Yeah, he was nice.
Chase?
Chase.
Handsome son of a gun, regardless whatever his first name is. And then they say Pat Nyarko, and I'm like, the wind kind of gets let out of my sails a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay, I got to wait another couple of picks. But yeah, I looked at the teams that were in between the Fire's 2 picks. I'm like, oh, well, I have not talked to any of those teams. None of those teams have expressed interest. So whatever, I'm cool. And then the 8th pick comes up, and whoever's announcing it says, and FC Dallas's selection from the Chicago Magic. I was like, I'm the only person here from the Magic. Damn it. And I hear my name, and I'm like, oh, yay. I'm going to Texas, I guess. I'm going to get some cowboy boots. And I go up there. They gave me the hat. They gave me the scarf. And my agent told me, say whatever you want to say, but make sure you thank the team that selects you, Adidas, and Major League Soccer. So I'm up there. I'm thanking my family and my friends and supporters. And I say, I really want to thank Generation Adidas, Major League Soccer, and the FC Dallas for making the selection and choosing me. I was this close to saying Chicago Fire to look down at my scarf and see which team actually drafted me.
Oh, man.
I was almost that guy. And then, so I was 8th overall draft pick. I think at the time I was the youngest goalkeeper ever drafted. I don't know if that stood.
Really?
It
might be.
Because people are coming up through the academy systems and everything. And so I go to Dallas. I'm competing as Dario Sala was the number 1, Argentinian guy. Ray Burst was the number 2.
I know Ray.
And then they brought me in as a number 3. And I do really, really well throughout preseason. They end up promoting me to backup. They send Ray Burst on loan to Portland because they were still in the USL or NASL, whichever one it was. I think it was March 30th, 2008. It's opening day. We're hosting Chivas USA in Frisco, and I'm on the bench for the first team game. Reserve game was on the stadium field right afterwards. 7 minutes into my first professional soccer game, I come out to smother a through ball, and I break my jaw.
What?
The forward came in and slid so hard, so I went down this way. Hit me so hard on this side that it cracked on the other side too. So I had a clean break here, clean break here. They had to go in through my jaw or through my gums, like insert hard wire, like drill it into my bone to make sure the bones would fuse back together properly. So that was like a 6 or 8 week recovery. And the manager that drafted me, Steve Morrow, it's like, I mean, the week or two after I got healthy, he got fired. So the head coach that took a pretty big chance in drafting a 17-year-old goalkeeper with, some experience, not a lot, gets fired. Shellis Hyndman comes in. And
He just left SMU. He
just left SMU.
SMU for 25 years.
So here I am thinking like, okay, he only wants veterans. He's had young guys to deal with forever and a day, and now he finally gets like adults to coach. Now, to be fair, I made a little bit of a bonehead decision. I was going to this church at this time. I was involved with this youth group back then, and we were playing some dumb game on stage. I know exactly what it is. I'm just going to spare the details. I ended up slicing open my shin. I needed to get stitches, and I had to miss a reserve game because of it. So like this was like a Sunday night. We were going to leave Monday for a game on Tuesday in Houston, and I have to sit in this new coach's office and explain
Why you can't
that
play.
I can't play in a reserve game because I got hurt at church playing Red Rover at a youth group. So I think that was probably more why I didn't really ever play. Because I thought he was like, okay, you are 17. Everyone, I hear nothing about good things. You're mature. You're all this and that, and nope, you're 17. And so I kind of did myself in there, to be fair. Now going forward, I felt I did everything that was required of me. I worked my butt off. They sent me on loan my third year to the Tampa Bay Rowdies, which was 2010. And that was the year that FC Dallas went to the MLS Cup final. Yeah. So I'm like, man, I miss our one good year. I finished out my contract. So it was 3 years guaranteed with Dallas on the GA deal, 4th and 5th year team option. 4th year they picked up, 5th year. They told me they were going to decline the GA deal. But so at that point, it was Kevin Hartman, Chris Seitz, and myself. Top-notch dudes. Both great careers, obviously the cat, Kevin Hartman played forever and a day.
Yeah, Chris Seitz too.
Seitz was great at an international level, played the Olympics, U20s, I think. Yeah. And the way that it was told to me, Hartman was going to be number one. My contract was up. Seitz's contract was up. And Dallas came to me and said, look, we want you to be our number 2 next year. But we have a for sure trade lined up with Seitz. So we don't want to just like let his contract lapse and then we get nothing for him. So we're going to re-sign him, do this trade, and then we're going to offer you another contract to be our number 2. Because I think the rosters then were still only 24 guys. That for sure trade fell through. They were stuck with Seitz's contract, and now there's no more room for me on the club. So I bounced around a little bit. I go to Sheffield United on a trial. That didn't work.
Premier League Sheffield or?
No.
They were down.
They were like
championship? At least championship. Was offered the pool goalkeeper job with the MLS. That particular time in my life, it wasn't very attractive.
The what goalkeeper job?
The MLS pool goalkeeper job. So it's
Ray
like,
Burst?
Pardon?
Ray Burst did that.
Did he?
What is that? What is that?
Okay, so back then, because all the players, unless you're a DP, were owned by the league.
Yeah.
So I would have signed a contract with the league. I would have been living and training at DC United. That's a club that wanted to bring me in to do it.
Okay.
And then let's say a goalkeeper in Colorado gets injured. Rosters are still very small. And so they call the league offices and say, hey, we need the pool goalkeeper. I get shipped to Colorado. I would have played for Colorado. I would have been a Colorado Rapid for that time until that goalkeeper gets healthy, and then I get shipped back to DC United. But then if a guy in LA gets injured, then I get shipped there. And so for a young single dude, that probably would have been great. My ego probably told me a little bit like, I'm definitely not going to get paid a third of what I've been getting paid. Like, that's not going to happen because it was $42,000 minimum then, I think.
Yeah.
And I was in a relationship. I didn't want to potentially move that person with me to then leave
True.
for who knows how long.
True.
And so I ultimately decided that, it's time to hang up the cleats and the gloves. And I'd gotten, when I went to Tampa, I'd gotten an associate's degree from an online school. And so now I graduated from that 2-year school online, done with soccer. I was like, oh boy, I think I need to grow up. Maybe, transfer my credits to a 4-year university, get a bachelor's so I can get a big boy job. Because, I was making 6 figures as a teenager. Like, I'm probably not going to be able to make that kind of money.
If you go back.
If I go back to like any sort of corporate gig with just like an associate's degree, like that doesn't pay that. It doesn't translate. So I'm like, oh man, I think I need to continue my education so I can go get a big boy job and make some money. And at this point, I'm 21 years old, retired from professional sports, and I tell my mom, who I moved out of the house at 14, I was, hey mom, I think I need to go transfer these credits and get a job. And she said, well, if you're going to go back to college, why don't you learn how to kick field goals?
Yeah, interesting.
Because she was living in Wisconsin. My family moved there for my brother.
Did it bother you at all that you were going to stop playing, like, mentally? Because, that once you stop, the game's more addictive than anything. I always tell people that. It's very addicting. Like, when you're good at it, you're addicted to it. Did you feel like you were in that situation where you're addicted, or did you feel like it was something that you just enjoyed doing and you were okay with just letting it go? Because you put in all that work. I mean, you've been doing it since you were young, in residency, all that stuff,
I think it was unique for me because I never represented FC Dallas in a regular season game. Like, I didn't play the games. So residency, I'm playing a whole lot till the end of my career with the team because then McMath overtook me. I was the backup to Brian Perk with the U20s. I never got an Olympic team call up. Like, I was a training player at this point.
Oh, okay.
Back then, I didn't view myself that way, but looking back, I was a training guy. But I loved it.
But it's weird because you're at such a high level. So to even say you're a training guy, it's like, yeah, but you were like the training guy at like the highest level.
Yeah, I was essentially I was the NFL P squad for MLS. It's kind of what I felt like. So I was addicted to the training. I think I'd kind of forgotten what it was like to play on the weekends. And so I don't know if it affected me that much because I can still train. I can still work out. Like, I can still go do whatever and continue to do what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have that game to miss. I didn't have those 90 minutes really to miss.
Do you feel less locked in? Did you feel like you could, like, because you're not playing in the game, like, personally, I can't do that. I couldn't not go and, like, playing games, and, like, my motivation would diminish. And maybe it's the ego. And I think it's great that you could do that because I couldn't do it. If I knew I was training, I knew I was training to play in the games. And if I wasn't playing in the games, to me, there was no point in justifying anything. And it's a bad mentality to have, but it's also that unknowing. Because if you know, like, okay, maybe in like a month or two, something could change, or I'm right behind this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm right behind this guy. I might start over him if he gets hurt or something. You're still locked in. You're still like, okay, I just need to keep working hard. But when you don't have a clue what's going on and you're just like, yeah, I'm gonna be here the whole year. That's tough, man. I mean, to not be locked in like that, and you can definitely respect that you kind of still stayed like a little bit more enjoyable. But did you feel like, yeah, like I'm good, I'm chilling?
I don't think I never allowed myself the time to process it because I was released in November. I think that's maybe December of 2011. I go on trial at Sheffield. That's a couple of weeks into January. I go on trial with DC United sometime in February. I decide March I'm done. And then April I reach out to this kicking coach who kicked at University of Wisconsin. He was boys with my brother. I reached out to him, a guy named Taylor Melhoff, and I said, hey man, this is where I've been. This is where I'm trying to go. Can you help? And so I had something else to focus on very quickly after that.
Oh, she didn't.
So you were like, you were then, I guess, that locked in when she said try kicking. Then you're like, you know what? All right.
I was like, yeah, I can go be a backup somewhere, get some free gear for a couple of years, and maybe go to a better school that could hopefully, maybe allow my resume to rise a little bit closer to the top when I'm starting applying for jobs. I had zero expectations for football to work. I was a student athlete. I got 2 degrees. I graduated with 3.81 GPA. I had honors. I earned academic scholarships.
That's good.
That the NCAA didn't let me accept, by the way, because I was on a full ride my senior year.
Because you played pro earlier? You went to a different sport?
No, I was a walk-on my first 2 years. Thankfully, I couldn't have gone to college without my Generation Adidas deal, because that paid for my associate's degree fully and my first 2 years at Texas A&M.
Wow, so you paid for it yourself?
I had no debt.
Wow.
I
So
don't think anybody can get in trouble for this now. I essentially blackmailed Texas A&M into giving me a scholarship. I'm like, look it, you've replaced me for that guy. Like, I don't have to do this anymore. Like, I can graduate after my second I had 3 years of eligibility. I can graduate after my second season. I can go get a job, and you guys go back to him. Like, I left professional soccer because it was not the best thing for me at that time in my life and my family. Don't think I won't stop playing college football for the same reason. I said, you give me a scholarship because I'm not leaving this place with debt, or you go back to him.
They're like, yeah.
A couple weeks later, I had a scholarship.
So that question, what made you, growing up myself from Ohio, Big Ten country, what made you pick A&M over Wisconsin, Northwestern?
I tried as hard as I could to go to Wisconsin. I tried real hard to go to University of Pittsburgh as well, because my kicking coach, who went to Wisconsin, the Wisconsin staff that he knew was at Pitt at that time.
Okay.
So he sent me to Wisconsin, to Pitt, to try and talk to these people. One of the recruiters at Pitt saw all the paperwork he was going to have to go through to get me eligible because I played a pro sport.
Oh, he's like,
and so he made up a bunch of, can I swear on this?
Yeah.
A bunch of bullshit about, oh, he's not allowed, we can't do this, it's too difficult, whatever, just because he didn't want to do the work.
Yeah.
So the reason I went to A&M is they're the only school that, so I'm going to community college during that summer, trying to like bump up my GPA, because I didn't care about my GPA for the online school. I thought I was going to continue to play soccer for another 15 years. And so I needed to bump up my GPA a little bit, working at a community college, kicking, training, doing everything. And I sent out my bio with like me, U17, U20 World Cup, international player, professional soccer player, don't need money. Like, I don't need you to give me a scholarship.
Money, they're like, yes.
And here's what I can do. 50 yards after 50 yards after 50 yards, banging touchbacks, 4.3 second hang time, going 10 yards out the back of the end zone. I sent 70-yard field goal clip. I sent to 30 different schools.
Really?
And the only school that responded was A&M.
That's determination right there, dog.
I am
That's
already
determination
better
right there,
than
dog.
the top 25 kickers in this country. I've never done this a day in my life. I guarantee you I'm better than all of them.
That's crazy.
And one school responded.
So when you were at A&M, you weren't there during the Manziel era, were you?
Yeah.
Ooh, that boy had the good life.
The first ever football game I was ever a part of was Texas A&M's inaugural SEC opener against Florida at Kyle Field in College Station. It was probably 100,000 people. I didn't play that game. I was a backup that year, but it was, that was my first year playing football was Johnny Manziel's Heisman year.
Wow.
That was bonkers.
Wow.
Crazy, man.
He was, to be fair, like, Johnny did Johnny. Like, people say, like, just, like, be you. Nobody did that more than he did. Nobody was as good at being him or herself better than him.
And you guys were, like, literally in the SEC, so that's got to be.
Yeah, he shook it.
And
That was the year we beat Alabama at Alabama.
yeah.
Mike Evans.
What
We
a
had
squad, huh?
Luke Jokel, Jake Matthews. Ryan Swope was really good wide receiver. He got drafted
Tannehill was there too, though. No, backup.
for me. So he left in 11.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
And so Johnny took over for Tim.
And you're just the whole journey from like not playing soccer anymore to like going to be a kicker at A&M, and how A&M gave you the scholarship because you pretty much like told them like told them what's up. It's you're like going to A&M now, and you get to A&M. Like, you've never been to Texas outside of playing for FC Dallas. Had you ever been to College Station before?
Ooh, no. No, I only knew College Station existed because I knew that's where Breck was from.
Because Breck's from there. Yeah, and I was like, anytime I looked at Breck's stuff, I'd be like, why is he from College Station? Like, what? They play soccer out there? Like, and you start hearing about A&M Consolidated and all. And there's only like one high school out there, so they go and they play who they play. And it's interesting because people don't know where College Station is. They don't like understand it's in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's literally the middle of nowhere. But that's school, man. Like, what was your experience like just being like getting to A&M and then like kind of going through like just the school stuff? Like, how great was it? Because that school is so lit, man.
I had no idea I was joining a cult.
It's a cult, dog.
It was for sure a cult.
It's a cult.
That first game playing against Florida, I didn't know I didn't know what a yell leader was. Like, I didn't know all of these.
Yeah.
I called him chants one time to a yell leader, and he told me, no, they're yells. Like, I didn't know any of these traditions that they had at football games. They have like 19,000 songs that everybody knows and does, and I didn't know any of them. And there's this big, I think this is called the Spirit of Aggie Land, that you always do at the beginning of the game, before, like after warm-ups, before you go into the tunnel to come back out for kickoff. And somehow I find myself next to Kevin Sumlin, who's a new head coach.
Yeah.
So there's 13 cameras right there. All of them focus on this person right to my left, singing the Spirit of Aggieland. And I'm going, watermelon, watermelon, watermelon. Because I didn't know it. I'm like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
But I'm very proud to say that I'm an Aggie. I love that school.
That's what's up.
I have some professors I still keep in touch with that have helped me with some books and things that I'm working on writing now. I made a lot of really good connections outside of the football team. Yeah. The security liaison for the football team is one of my best friends.
So the question, how was it? Because now you're 21, you really didn't do the high school thing.
Yeah.
So now you're in college. You're playing football, but you're a little bit older than a regular because you're like a freshman almost, or kind of sophomore, junior.
Yeah, technically, I would have. My status would have been a redshirt sophomore.
Redshirt sophomore, and it's like now. How was it? Like, let's say when you were on campus, living in a dorm, I'm assuming, correct?
I lived in an apartment.
In an apartment, and then you have in the locker room. Like, you went from a soccer locker room to a football locker room for college. How's that?
I mean, I went from a locker room of 24 guys and 5 coaches to 113 players. I'm sure there was something with coaches' assistants. There was probably over 30 coaches. You have 5 full-time athletic trainers plus probably 12 student trainers. I mean, you have 4 full-time guys in the equipment room plus all the students. I mean, it was like we filled out, jumbo jet every time we had an away game.
First class, everything.
I did not know anybody's name.
Really?
I'm like calling out numbers. I'm like, hey, 17. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I didn't know.
No, yeah.
I learned how to. I forced myself to drink coffee because I couldn't stay awake in the special teams meeting rooms because I didn't know the language they were speaking. I'm like, what? Like, what is it? A back block? Like, what is this maneuver? Like, I don't know any of this. I'm like, is it fourth down or not? Am I kicking the ball or not? That's all I need to know. Like,
but even with the how he's talking about like the the actual like physical football, soccer like atmosphere, what's the player relationships like, and like how did you feel as far as like being in a soccer locker room and being in a football locker room? Did you feel like the bonds were tighter in soccer? Did you feel like the bonds were tighter in football? Were the guys cooler? Were they weirder? Like, what was the difference? Did you feel? Because that's a perspective that I don't think many people can actually at that level, because college football is NFL to me. I mean, it's like the people you see before you get to NFL. It's the same thing, but being MLS, not everyone gets to be in MLS locker room, because remember we talked about that exclusivity this country has, and in soccer. What was it like as far as like experience wise? What was better? What was worse?
Yeah. I was definitely tighter with guys with soccer. But for me, I had 2 very outcast positions. In soccer, I'm literally wearing a different colored shirt. I'm wearing different equipment. Like, I was the outcast of the 11 guys out there on the field. Yeah. And so you're always kind of alone. Like, you're not training with the guys for the first 45 minutes of practice. You're off doing goalkeeper sessions. So I was kind of used to being a little bit more secluded. But then in football, it's very cliquey, because like you go in, you have your team meeting, and then you go right into the special teams meeting. The quarterbacks and the big guys will leave. Then you have special teams meeting. And then after the special teams meeting, which is comprised of offensive and defensive players, then they break out into the offensive meeting rooms and the defensive meeting rooms, and the specialists are off like, well, what do we do for the next 2 hours until practice? So you get to know the other specialists really well, but I was competing with the other guy. There's 5 kickers, there's 3 punters, there's 4 long snappers. So there is a little bit, and there's only one that's going to play. Like a group of wide receivers, of 5 wide receivers, can be really tight, can be real homies because there's at least 2 out there every play. Yeah. Sometimes there's 3. And so you can like feel more a part of that gang, like and like support. I couldn't support the other kicker. I couldn't be like, yeah, dude, you're great. Hey, what if you try this? Yeah. Because then if I'm giving all my special sauce away, I'm not going to be the guy that plays, and then I'm not going to give myself that opportunity. For sure. So it's a little bit more cutthroat. And I always felt that throughout my NFL career. It was, and truthfully, I'm sure I could have made more of an effort. For sure. To really, truly interact with those guys, to really go out of my way to be friends with them. But like, I'm 21, 22, 23. I think I left at age 24 out of college. I don't want to go hang out with a bunch of 19-year-olds. Yeah, like, I don't want to hang out with a bunch of knuckleheads, like trying to go get drunk and not take care of their business. Like going back to talking about like guys that have the talent versus have to work hard. Mm-hmm. I felt that I had to work very hard and hone my craft. I didn't feel like I was naturally a goalkeeper. I had to learn how to be. And then I wasn't a tall one, so my footwork had to be impeccable. My explosion had to be impeccable. Yeah. As a kicker, there are some guys, man, they can just show up, kickers, punters. I mean, guys like Sebastian Janikowski, super overweight, always drunk, spitting in the middle of games, like with tobacco. And,
really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's Polish.
And they can just show up and have a career day. I wasn't that way. I had to do my Epsom salt bath the night before. I had to do my visualization. I had to do my journaling. I had to go back and watch the film. I took that very seriously. And when I got to football, I know what it was like having your dream taken away. Those college cats had no idea.
For sure, yeah.
On national television at 17 years old telling the world where they're going to go to college. It's like, shut up, nobody cares. Yeah. You haven't done anything yet.
Yeah, facts.
And the ego in that Texas A&M locker room, guys that had all the talent in the world, but didn't know what they had. They had no idea of what they had. I'm like, I'm not going to associate with you people. I'll try to help you. Mm-hmm. If there's a leadership opportunity, I will help. But if you're not going to listen, I'm not going to talk to somebody with closed ears. There was one cat. He was a captain on the team. And we were, like, in the off season, we did Freaky Fridays. And it's like, you start off pushing sleds, then you go in the gym, and then you go do sprints. It was wild. And so we had just finished the sled pushes, and we all have to, like, we're in the indoor, and then we have to, like, go as a group across the parking lot into the gym, the weight room. And we were waiting on a couple of guys that were, like, taking their cleats off, putting their flats on, but, like, they were taking their time. And, like, we're all waiting there. I'm like, hey, come on, fellas, like, let's go. And I had a dude snap at me, curse me out, mother F this, I will not let you talk to me that way. I'm here working my butt off. I'm like, yo, so are we. And all of our shoes are already on. Mm-hmm. So are you just not fit? Like, what's the problem? I didn't have time for that, man. Like, if you think you're bigger than the team, I got no time for you. There's not one single player in any sport. I don't care if you're Jordan or LeBron or Messi. Nobody is bigger than that sport. Yeah. And in football, the egos are just so much more inflated.
Oh, they're more inflated.
Oh yeah. In the SEC football team has way more ego than any MLS team.
Oh, for sure. I can believe that. I can believe that if you say SEC. I'm just thinking like in the sense of like in your world, like, all right, when I see like soccer dudes and they're like egos and stuff like that, I'm just looking at them like, dude, you ain't got no clue what's going on here, man. Like, you're nobody in the real world. And we talk about that all the time. We're like, you gotta understand where you are and who you are, in the world. But in their world, soccer community is so small, like in your world, you're like this guy or whatever, but in the real world, because we've all been in like different sporting backgrounds, like our friends are from all over the place. We know our role, you know what I'm saying? We know, all right, cool. Like I might be this person, but there's still that guy, I might be this guy, but there's LeBron, there's other people. So you got to kind of be chill. So in my mind, sometimes I feel like the soccer guys have bigger egos because their world's so small. Of course they're gonna have a big ego because in their world, they're LeBron, their version of LeBron. I would think in football, all right, guys have egos, but they'd be more chill because they know like there's guys bigger than them. You know what I'm saying? But from what you're saying the egos are even bigger.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah, it has
bonkers.
to be bigger because they're like he's saying they're 17 years old having National Letter of Intent Day.
Yeah.
Like they're 18 years old playing at Alabama, Florida, and everybody's telling them you're gonna be the next.
But don't you feel like the coaches though, like the coaches and the coaching and like the way, I don't know how A&M was. I knew a little bit about like Sumlin's era. It was a little more because he came from U of H, and my brother was under him at U of H for a little bit, for like a year, and then because he had Case Keenum and all those guys before. But Sumlin's like a more players coach. He's like a little bit more. He's like a dad, but he's also like cool with you, and he kind of let everybody kind of do their thing. So I can see where you said that. But if you're like under like Nick Saban, he's gonna have everybody ego down a little bit.
Right.
You think?
And I think, yes, absolutely, because Sumlin did not have Saban status. Very few people did, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But with Sumlin, I wish he was more of a brother than a dad, and that's the problem, I think. But he was also thrown into a difficult position. How do you tell Johnny Manziel no? How do you bench the Heisman? You know, regardless if he's showing up drunk for Friday walkthroughs or not after going out at Northgate on Thursday night.
Northgate, we up.
Shout out to College Station.
Hey.
But like, how do you bench him when the head coach's job is to get results? Unfortunately, the head coach's job in college is not to develop young men; it's to get wins.
Yeah.
And he was put between a rock and a hard place. He is the most talented athlete in the country, but he's a little shithead teammate.
Yeah.
How do you balance that? And so I think Sumlin was so good that 2012 year when we beat Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl because the previous head coach, I forget what his Mike Sherman.
Yeah, Sherman. Yeah.
Sherman recruited blue collar workers, like middle of the state. Like you're going to be smart, you're going to be respectful, you're going to love your mother, and you're going to work hard at this football team. Sumlin had the 5-star mindset.
Yeah.
But with a bunch of 3-star athletes.
Yeah. Okay.
3-star work ethic. And then he starts bringing in he recruits for 5-star talent, but then you also get 5-star shit headery.
The mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm all this, that, and a bag of chips. And I mean, I can't count how many 5-star scholarships he gave away that got kicked off the team for disciplinary issues. That didn't happen with Coach Sherman and his recruits. Sherman recruited for substance. Sumlin recruited for style. And that's why after 2012, the program tanked.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
No, it did. It did. The Johnny saga was one of the best times. Like, I watched college football since I was like super young. So like, I mean, at that time, 2012, I'm 21, maybe 21, 2012, 21. I was going to school in North Carolina, and it was one of the funnest years to like watch it from a fan standpoint because you had this little guy, small white quarterback. You just like seen him run around and he's just killing people. And he's doing it with style, and we hadn't had that in a while. And we don't get it from our quarterbacks. Essentially, quarterbacks weren't flashy. They were very just
Stay in the pocket.
Peyton, all these guys get the job done, go home, and we're cool. You got that more from the receivers or the running backs, but to have a quarterback do that, and people don't understand. I tell Oliver this all the time because Ohio State guy, there's Ohio States and the Michigans, and then there's the Tennessees, and then all these Alabamas. When you do something at Texas A&M, and you do something special, it's almost to the real world, it's nothing, but to that place, it's like you're Jesus to them because they don't get that many special people. They get good players. They don't get special talents that come and resurrect the football program. They made so much money off that guy. They made so much like their sponsorships and everything went up. He didn't get a penny for it. He did the documentary. We watched it. They pretty much punished him for it, but it was crazy how much fun it was because the school had more people wanting to come to A&M. There was more of pop culture coming to A&M because A&M never had that. It never had that. Like it was literally like a blue collar school, the middle of Texas. Those people went to school there. Agriculture because it's an agricultural school.
Agriculture, mechanical.
A&M. So like my dad works at Prairie View.
Okay. Yeah.
So like he's been there for 25 years. So he'd always go to A&M back and forth sometimes. And I always tell people like when you go to a school like A&M and you can change the football program a little bit, you're going to be a different type of guy when you leave. You know what I'm saying? And you got to make a difference because they get a lot of guys who come through, but they don't get a lot of guys who make a difference. They had Von Miller, who's like the closest to Johnny, but nothing to what Johnny's level. So it's interesting to hear that because a lot of football guys that we know, they're super cool. They're super cool dudes. NFL guys, they're super cool. Soccer guys, I almost like run into an ego of like the level of an NFL player, and they're not even close. Money, status, or anything. And it's wild to me when I see a soccer guy and they're just like, they think they're the
Yeah.
And he runs like a Clint Dempsey's, and Clint's cool. Like, he's chill. He got that ego too, but at least he accomplished that level of success to have that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it makes sense. But the NFL guys, they might not be the best NFL players. They're good NFL players, but it's different to get to NFL and be an alpha male type personality than it is to be an MLS player, especially with the exclusivity stuff that we talk about a lot. All right, guys, this is Chopaholic. Make sure you subscribe.
Please hit that follow button, like it wherever you can. Just tell all your friends about the Victory Chatter podcast.
And, we'll be back. Holla.